Hey gamers, quick ad break before we get to the pod. As you might have noticed, the Beyond Solitaire podcast is now sponsored by Central Michigan University's Center for Learning Through Games and Simulations. I'm personally really proud to have this sponsorship because they believe in bringing games to the classroom to make learning both informative and fun. One part of CLGS's project is to publish peer-reviewed, academically sound board games that are indeed both fun and informative, and I want to make a quick announcement about a couple of those. Their first successful Kickstarter, Monumental Consequence, has now opened pre-orders, so if you go to the Kickstarter page for Monumental Consequence, designed by Mary Beth Linney, you can pre-order it there. If you want to hear more about the game, I actually interviewed Mary Beth Linney on a previous episode of this very podcast. I also want to announce an upcoming Kickstarter game for you to look out for. There's not a release date yet, but I will be having the designer on this podcast for interview, and that is Professor Scout Bloom's Rising Waters, which is another game you'll be hearing more about in the near future. Thanks for listening, and let's get on with the show. Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and this week on the pod, I have a very, very special guest. It is Richard Wilkins, probably better known to many of you as Ricky Royal. How you doing, Ricky?
Hi, Liz. Hi. Good to see you. Good to finally get together and have a chat. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we talked a bunch of times over Twitter Messenger, but this is the first time we've ever spoken. So
Yeah,
this is
I
kind of
know.
cool.
I can't believe it. I was thinking we must have spoken before. We must have. It feels like we've known each other for ages. Yeah. There you go.
Not gonna lie, slightly starstruck. I'm among the many who discovered a lot of solo games through you. So it's fun. It's fun to have you on here.
Yeah, likewise. Fun to be here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So you are famous for your YouTube channel where you've taught many games. It's probably most famously Mage Knight. Thank you for that on a very personal level. But you are also a game designer, and that's why I wanted to have you on today. I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about your dual role, right, as a solo gamer extraordinaire and a designer of solo modes, some of which are quite tricky. But let's check in on your current design. So I know that Renegade was going to be re-released at some point. Yep. What's the status?
Yeah, it's all kind of in the can, ready to go. Artwork's done. Publisher's telling me that it's artwork done. I've seen some of it. It looks great. So we've got some new content, and it's the same game. I mean, a lot of folks are saying, "Oh, is it a retheme? Is it?" And so on and so on. It's a rename. So we have got a rename and kind of a relaunch. It'll likely be a bigger box, some new content in an expansion. But yeah, everything's getting pushed back at the moment, Liz. So it's I don't have any dates. People are saying, "What's the date? What's the date?" So it was 2019, it was 2020, and then it's 21. So 2022, fingers crossed. So time's flying. Time's flying.
Are you allowed to tell us the new name?
Yeah, I think so. So working title, let's call it a working title, is Deckers. So it's the idea being it's kind of a little play because Renegade was a deck building game, still is a deck building game. So we've got Deckers in there, and Deckers is kind of a nickname for hackers, right? So yeah, that was kind of where it came to. So but there's a couple of names in the mix, but I think that's the favorite right now for in the running. So but yeah, how it will and when it will appear, we will see. But what it does mean is because I kind of finished it a while ago, and it's kind of in the back of my mind now, and I'm thinking about other things. So I've been busy with loads of other stuff. But yeah, they're at it. I know the publisher's busy with Everdell, and I think that's skyrocketed in popularity. So I know that's keeping them busy. But yeah, it's out there. It'll happen at some point, but when, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Excellent. All right. So for those of you who have not played Renegade, now maybe Deckers, it is a very fun, tricky little deck building game where you're hacking into different computers and fighting against different evil computer bosses. So
it's quite nice because it's been so long. I mean, when I put the design first to Victory Point Games, that was 2012, maybe. So
wow.
We're coming up on 10 years, and I mean, it seems like yesterday, but publishing games is a very slow. If that's one lesson I've learned, it's a slow business. Kickstarter changed things a little bit because people can publish their own games very quickly, but I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. So I love working with other people, but it is a very slow business. But in that time, I've learned a lot. So it'll look and feel, and it'll play like the same game, but it's given me an opportunity to kind of just improve, just buff up a few rough edges and just make it a little bit smoother. Listen to the feedback. One thing I enjoy doing is talking to people who play and what did they like, what didn't they like, and over that number of years, you can there's always room for improvement. So so there'll be a few little tweaks, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I want people who've got first edition to still be able to play. So no component changes, but maybe some slight little rule tweaks.
Nice. All right, so we talked about what's in the back of your mind. What's in the front of your mind right now? What projects are you working on that you can disclose?
Well, I've just finished. I say just finished. It's one of those things where you think you're finished, but there's always, as when you've got your designer hat on, you're always trying to think of new things or little improvements, or maybe I can make this better. So, but I spoke to Drew Worley today, who works with his brother Cole Worley, and we've been working on John Company's second edition, which is sitting back here somewhere. So I literally just finished up a kind of a final rule tweak, which I was working on yesterday. John Company's second edition. So I've been brought in to do the solo rules. So Cole is the designer of second edition John Company, and then Drew has been developing the solo rules with myself. So I did the design, and Drew does the rule book and makes it all presentable and makes sure it's fits within the framework of what they want to deliver, and it's part of the Whirligig vision. And it's been immensely fun. It's been great fun to work with those guys. We worked on PAX Premier second edition and PAX Premier first edition. PAX Premier, and it was well received last year. I think John Company is better, but it's hard. I was talking with Drew about this the other day. As a designer, you're so close to the game that it's like your child. Obviously it's more like my little nephew, but to them it's their child. But you are so close to it. But because you put with John Company, this is the biggest project I've undertaken as a collaborator. Been working on it for many months. It must be a year, and it's been the most involved solo mode. Typically, Liz, when I've been working on solo modes, you take a game and then you kind of try and tack a solo mode onto it. With John Company's second edition, it was different. It was coming into this, they knew they wanted me to join them on the team, and it was kind of you've got a blank slate, Ricky, and if you need new components, if you need a rule book, if you want new cards, if you want new anything you need, we'll make it part of the game. So it's been a little bit more like the freedom to just add stuff and keep changing rules, and also getting to know Cole and Drew. Cole's designs are so he lives and breathes them for a long period of time, and he's never happy, and he'll keep developing, and development is just this really long process. And to kind of work on the solo mode with the same frame of mind has been a lot of work, but a lot of fun as well. So yeah, I've really enjoyed working on second edition John Company. I think it's better because it will be better because it's giving solo gamers something that I don't think they've experienced before, and that's really hard to do because solo gaming is so prevalent now, and we're so lucky. When I first started, if you go back 10 years, you had to seek out solo games. And now, if a game hasn't got a solo mode, then it feels like it's missing something, right? Everyone wants a solo mode now. So, I don't know what point I'm trying to make, really. Yeah, it's harder to find something that hasn't been done already, or put something on a solo gamer's table that they feel that they haven't experienced before. There are gems to find, and I hope that people will find this to be a little gem. I hope so. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's nervous knowing how people are going to react, but we'll see.
I trust you. You have yet to disappoint me, not to be scary or anything, but no kidding. So I'm actually glad you mentioned John Company, though.
You're not looking hard enough, Liz. There's some rotters in there as well, I'm sure.
So I'm glad you brought up John Company, though, because I actually wanted to talk to you about it, because this is a game I never expected to see a solo mode for, because it involves a lot of negotiation. It's very interactive. I actually remember being very surprised, pleasantly so, by your design for Pax Pamir, because Pax Pamir at its best is also a fairly interactive game. Yes. It's very much about what's happening on the board, the cloth, but it's also about what other people are doing with their cards and messing with that. So what was the biggest challenge for you in making John Company start to work as a solo mode? And what are some special things you've had to take into consideration to get it soloable but still have the right spirit?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've hit the crux of the issue with the question, which is, what is, when I sat down, I mean, with Cole and Drew, and we had a little Skype talk, like a little Zoom like we're doing now, and we talked about what is the essence of the game. I mean, it is a negotiation game. That's what it is. There's a set of mechanisms. Just a little, so thematically, you're playing kind of families who have an investment in the East India Company, nicknamed John Company. So John Company is a nickname for East India Company, back in the beginning of the 18th century through to the middle and end of the 19th century, so like 1850. But in that role, you're kind of acting selfishly. You want to. It's a first off, it's a semi-cooperative game. You're all trying to put your influence over the John Company and make John Company succeed or fail, and kind of extort money out of the company to make your family wealthy. And in doing so, you have to negotiate with everybody else who you're kind of cooperating with to keep the company running. So a lot of John Company goes on above the table. And so the first thing to do was sit down and watch people play the game, which obviously in this day and age means tabletop simulator, right? So the early phase was watching people play, just watching people play and understanding what it means to be a player in that game. What kind of experience are you getting? With the luxury of time and being able to have the freedom to design it how I wanted to, it meant I could afford to kind of be a little bit extravagant in the design. So that meant I could take time to just sit down and watch people play. And rather than, with a lot of solo modes, you're just trying to find something that works mechanically. With this game, it was, it wasn't so much about making it work mechanically, it was making it feel like you were playing the same game, like it was a negotiation game. So yeah, that was the trickiest part. And it was trying to, and it's having that little eureka moment of how do I make a negotiation game solo? And that was really, I hope, the thing that will bring a new experience to solo gamers table, because you've got a negotiation game that you can play on your own. I know it sounds weird and impossible, but you are negotiating with an imaginary opponent. And the way it works is just watching people play. Different game groups have different dynamics. Some players play nicely together and they cooperate and they make trades with each other that are positive for everybody. Some game groups, people didn't play so nicely and they were a little bit more cutthroat and they might be a little bit more demanding and being a little bit more selfish, right? Because there's different types of players. With the solo mode, what became clear was that irrespective of what types of people they were, when they play a game, it was the same kind of trades that were coming up. So when people were negotiating, you're saying, right, I'll give you this and you give me that, right? So I'll give you money and you give me ships. I give you ships, you give me workshops, right? So there's these kind of trades going on. And also things like, well, I'll give you a pound now if you act in a certain way on this phase, and then later on in the game you'll do me a favor, right? And so there's all these different kinds of trades going on, but every time people played, it was the same kind of trades. So what happened was, it became clear from a solo point of view, all I had to do was present an imagined opponent that's offered the same kind of trades. So that's what you'll see when you play John Company second edition solo, is you'll have an AI opponent that offers a menu of trades, and each of those trades has a price. So we invented this currency called promises, that allowed you to buy things from this menu and sell things on this menu. So everything has a buy price and a sell price. So you can actually have this negotiation game going on. And that's one dimension. And the other dimension was this idea of some people play nice and some people don't play nice. So in the solo mode, you play against an AI opponent called the Crown, right? It's the British Crown, it's the monarchy. So the AI becomes the Crown, this kind of third party who's acting selfishly. And the Crown has different moods. She can be cooperative, she can be selfish, she can be for the company, she can be against the company. So this other layer was having these different moods, being bullish or being bearish, right, towards the company. And what mood she's in. So it's kind of like you kind of get an AI, you get a card draw like in PAX Premier, or if you've played Automa Factory games, right? You draw a card and it says do this, do this. So the card says, look at the game state. What kind of mood is the Crown in? Is she feeling for the company, against the company? Is she feeling cooperative or uncooperative? And then it'll set her mood, and then her mood will dictate then the relative prices of the trades that she's going to offer you. Maybe she wants to, if she's feeling for the company, she's more willing to invest, and if she's against the company, then she's a little bit more clinging on to her finances. So it's kind of this interplay of these two things: a menu of trades and her mood, which alters how she behaves. So yeah, that's what I hope will present the Crown as a kind of her own personality, an automated opponent that has a personality. And that was really the big challenge. There you go. In a long answer.
I'm really excited to try this. I'm not even gonna lie. So it sounds like you got very engaged in the mechanisms of this game, in the vibe of playing it, and how that shifts. I know that Cole also is very, this is based on his research academically, and he gets very engaged with the theme as well. Did you end up historically engaged as well as mechanically engaged during this process?
Not like Cole. I mean, Cole is another level. So yeah. I mean, yeah, that's his department, right? He knows what's right and he knows what's wrong. So he'll look at everything that we're doing and say yes or no, or is it right or is it wrong? So no, but it does spark your interest. So of course it was something I wanted to go and find out a little bit about, but not enough to understand whether Cole's design is good or bad, or whether this is right or wrong. So no, it wasn't. It's his design 100%, and my job really is to make the solo mode work mechanically and feel like you're playing the same game. Yeah, so it was more about modeling the gaming experience rather than getting too much into the theme for me. Yeah, that's very, very much Cole's department. Yeah, definitely.
Fair
But
enough.
that's the wonderful thing about history games, right, Liz? You do get drawn in. It does feel like the game is. I mean, it's still a game is still a game, but it does kind of just spark a little bit of interest here and there about the flavor text that people could put. You're limited with what you can do, but what a game can do is tell a story that in a different kind of way. It can make you feel like you're experiencing history, and in the case of John Company, you're kind of you're one of the bad actors, you're one of the bad guys, right? So it kind of gives you a perspective. And I know that was really important to Cole because I did talk to him about it. Um, and so he has put a heck of a lot of thought into that dimension of the game. Not, it's above and beyond anything that I could help him with for sure. Yeah, so hopefully gamers will experience that from Cole's design, and then get a new kind of solo experience from myself. And a lot of people I know for sure won't touch the solo. It's because it's and saying that is it's really a 3+ player game. So the Crown as an automated opponent is not just a solo game thing. Like Pax Premier, she'll also play in a 2-player game, so it allows you to play the game 2-player, which otherwise you couldn't do because it would be a 3-player game. So yeah, it's
Nice.
jolly good fun. Yeah, so that's one thing I've been working on. Yeah, a few little other things in the pipeline. Talking of history, I mean, I still like just doing fan-made solo variants. So I've just published one for Brian Boru with the High King of Ireland. So this was Pierre Sylvester's latest game. I did a solo mode for The King is Dead, and then I got Brian Boru, which plays 3 to 5. So I did a solo mode for that. So I've been playing with that for the last few weeks. So yeah, great fun. Another history kind of game. Yeah. And again, it's just a challenge of trying to create solo modes for people, because a lot of people now, with COVID and being stuck at home and everything else, and I don't know, the dreaded winter coming and feeling like we're going to be stuck in a game. A lot of people still aren't able to get together like they were. So to be able to play a 3+ player game solo is nice, right? And a lot of people just want to experience the games and want to experience the mechanisms, because it's a great way to spend your free time alone. So yeah, so I enjoy doing that, and it becomes a bit of a hobby in itself. Have you ever tried to design solo modes, Liz?
I have not. I've started to toy with the idea of it a little bit, but I'm not ready to make the leap just yet.
Really? And when you're playing, do you think I could have done this better? Do you think?
I definitely think, well, I think this could be a bit different,
You
or
can have your house rule, right?
sometimes, yeah. Or, I think maybe the priority on this AI should be different because I think it'd be harder if it was this way. Some games I just throw out the rules. Like, I mean, my go-to example for that is something like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. If I want to enjoy the scenery, I'm going to enjoy the scenery. I'm not going to race.
Right.
And
but that's one thing about playing solo is you're not cheating anyone apart from yourself. So when you're playing, do you feel it's okay to bend the rules a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I've been playing a game for hours and I'm gonna lose on like one die roll, I absolutely think it's okay to retcon back a few moves and like do it again differently, because why would I do the same work again? I could just rewind.
Well, that's the
Go
what
ahead.
if roll, isn't it? What if I hadn't rolled it? What if I hadn't rolled a 1? What would have happened? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I keep a win-loss record against
Right.
myself. Actually, one thing I noticed that you've been saying is, you are clearly a very avid designer, and even in ways that maybe people don't notice on the surface because you're known for how many games you play. But the theme has come up, right, several times, of things that are surprising for solo gamers, things that are a bit of a stretch or have been for solo gamers. When was the last time a solo game you played truly surprised you?
Oh, what a question. Um, I'm looking around at what I've been playing recently. Um, you did a was it a top 100, or you did what with Edward from
Oh, it's just a top 10. Yeah.
top 10, and Ed's top game was 1862. I've never played an 18xx game before, and is it? I've got it here, Mike Hutton, right? And so 1862. I'm looking over here because it's over here. It's literally on my table. I'll grab it. Railway Mania in the Eastern Counties. So this was Ed's number 1, and I thought, right, I've got to have a look. And one of the things I've been talking to you about, John Company, was trying to create a solo mode that plays like the multiplayer game. this is an absolutely fantastic solo mode that doesn't play like the multiplayer game. So that was, yeah, I've been blown away, but I've become a little bit obsessed on this. It's one of those games that gets stuck in your head, and you just keep wanting to dig deeper. And I always felt like when I play games for the camera, it's very often heavy games. When I play games off camera, I want them to kind of be a little bit light and a little bit more relaxed. Um, I like delving into the mechanics. I like helping other players learn games. So they heavy games work well on camera for me to kind of explore. But when I'm off camera, I do like to unwind with something simple. But this is one of those games which is really, really quite difficult for non-gamers, I would think impossible. And for someone like myself, I found it difficult. And it's something, a game, but I felt really drawn into studying and trying to understand it. You know, there's lots of terms in there that are difficult to comprehend. And then with the solo mode, you kind of have this. Have you played?
No, I've actually put it on my list of things to look at after that episode.
Right, right. No, do Liz, because one of the things on the solo mode is it just introduces a completely new mechanism, which is kind of like, it's a very familiar mechanism. It's like the Solitaire or Klondike or Patience, whatever you call the game, where you lay out the cards in an array and you draw from the bottom in these different columns. And this does not feature in the multiplayer game, but it creates a puzzle for the soloist that really fits, and it really fits the game. And so yeah, I was really surprised by that. But just the way the designer said, I'm just going to do something completely different with the solo game. You know, the rest of it is this kind of the same, but they've taken the whole Parliament phase out. There's a whole phase of the game just like, we're not doing that. You know, it's not going to work solo. We'll take that out. You know, like when with a lot of solo designers, we're trying to mimic the multiplayer game. It was like, no, we're not going to. And it's so successful and it works really well. And I think that's another thing that is worth considering. If you want to design solo games, there's no hard and fast rules. Do what you want to do to make a game that you think people can play. So if you want to rip a whole section of the multiplayer game out, do it. You know, it's an interesting challenge. If you want to, just take a game, put the rule book away, and just take the components. If you want to practice being a designer, just look at the components and say, right, what would I do? Let's make a game out of these components. You know, just to practice techniques. I mean, that's another thing to do is play lots of games, and you'll get lots of different ideas. So you said we know you as a player of games because of what I do on Box of Delights with the YouTube. But as a player of games, you're always learning and pulling little influences from every game. So it is really hard to create something new. But what you're trying to do is find experiences that you found fun, and those are the things that you want to put in your games. So yeah, don't be too bogged down with trying to mimic the multiplayer game. If it isn't fun, then it isn't right. You know, make a fun game. That's the key. Make a fun game. Yeah.
I think that's good advice. People ask me all the time, especially because I've trended heavier in terms of the games I like to play in recent years. You know, I get a lot of questions about, oh, what should I be playing? Or should I get this? Or do I want to risk, this difficult game? Or I always sort of feel like, well, does that sound fun to you or not? You're not, ethically or morally or pride obligated to go do the most brutal thing to yourself that you could. Yeah. That actually leads me back to, I thought it was really interesting. You said there's a difference between what you choose to showcase on your channel and what you like to play on your own. And you started to hint at an answer, but why is that? Why is the Ricky Royal of YouTube playing a different repertoire than Richard Wilkins at home?
It's not always different. I mean, I like to go back and get older games out. So I was playing Arkham Horror the other day, just on my own without a camera, and it felt like freedom, because this is the trouble, when you must feel this, Liz, when you're doing, creating content for people to watch, it becomes a little bit of an obsession, and it takes up a lot of your time, that it starts to feel a little bit like work. And then you have to remind yourself every now and again. Well, I do, because I mean, this is just a hobby, 100%. Even the design stuff is, I'm not getting, it's not a career. So sometimes you just want to unwind with something light and easy that feels easy. So I've been playing a game called Cascadia of Randy Flynn. Beth Sable did the artwork, which is beautiful, and it's actually, this is another good example because of solo. Who did the solo? Sean Stankwich. I don't know if I've got his name right. One of the hardest things is doing simple game, making a simple game. Sometimes it's easier to make a complicated game than it is to make a simple game. Cascadia is a simple tile laying game with the solo mode in there as well, and the playability is so smooth. It just feels good to play. It's got simple rules you can encapsulate in your mind. You don't have to look at a rule book, and you can just relax. So it's a mindful game, and that's why I like those kind of games. I sit at a computer all day at work, and then sometimes in the evening you then have to sit and edit a video, and sometimes it's not as fun as it should be, because you have to, you're only doing this for fun. So sometimes it's just like, let's put the computer away, let's just get out a game. So I'll get out a game like Cascadia, because it's something that you can just, it's mindful. You can switch off. You don't have to think. And that's where board games deliver therapy. And a lot of people say, why do you play board games? It's solo. It's a social experience. We say all the time, it's not. It's a way to relax and unwind in the quiet on our own. It's different. People have different medicine, and this is my medicine. So yeah, that's why I like the simple games. But then today I was reminding myself, I was answering some questions on one of my Mage Night videos, and actually, Liz, it was a video. I put a little shout out to your series. You did a great series of Mage Night videos, and I'm always reminded just how much I love that game, and I'm hankering after getting it out again and just playing. But I've played it enough that I don't find it complicated anymore. But again, it's a heavy game that you can enjoy, but you have to give yourself the luxury of time, don't you, to sit and play it.
See, that's what to me is the most indulgent thing, the most delicious thing maybe about playing solo, is I love that I can just play a game across multiple days if I wanted to. I can stop when I want to. I can set it up and then come back tomorrow if that's what I want to do. And so I think, I love a good simple game to unwind, but I also like that I can have a big chunky experience, and I like being able to do it my way. I'm very selfish. I want to, if it's a story game, I want to make the choice I want to make.
Yeah, this is my game. Nobody else is playing.
Yeah, I want to take the best characters and I want to pick their specs. And, I read a lot too. That's probably actually my primary thing that I do. I read a lot. But after that, gaming is my primary way to just spend time in my own head.
Are you still doing your book podcast?
Yeah, I have a little booktube. It's it's slower going than the game channel, but yeah, I actually just finished up the Poppy War fantasy trilogy by R.F. Kuang.
Okay.
But
I'm a very, very slow reader. So yeah, I just started reading. One game I've been enjoying playing is Dune Imperium, but I'd never read the books, so I felt inspired to finally pick up the book and start reading, which also meant I couldn't. I had to make sure I coordinated with the movie, because I couldn't get too. I was like, this movie at the cinema, I have to make sure I get as far through the book as that first part of the movie ends, so I don't get spoiled by the movie. So, but yeah, we talked about history games inspiring you, but June inspired me to pick up a book. Are there lots of games based on books, apart from like the Tolkien ones, of course? Yeah, I don't know. But,
yeah, there's some.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not some more successful than others.
Right. It's really hard creating worlds in a game. Like with Renegade, it was really hard to kind of. I'm not a writer, so it's just to try and create the characters, create the world that they live in, and it's hard not to come off with sounding trite or coming up or using cliches, and it's such a difficult skill. Yeah, we need
Yeah.
people who are employed specifically as writers. I know a lot of publishers do that, right? And we like Chip Theory Games have their own writer, so that
Oh
to
yeah.
do all that world stuff.
Yeah, Chip Theory's got so much lore. It's lore for days. Day lore?
Right.
Oh no. But I think that's what I like about history games too. Like they have a built-in setting, so you can kind of get into the atmosphere without as much prep.
Well, it's like you say. I mean, it's a lot of the time it's designers are interested in that stuff. So designers who make history games are interested in history, like horror. So yeah, you have to know your subject really. But when you're making up a fantasy subject, you need to have a writer's mind sometime. I did a Kickstarter preview. I think I published it last night. It's for a game called Ironclads, by AAA's Games, and they primarily are they create role playing games. So writing stories is their thing, and now they've made this miniatures game, and like the first 20 pages of the rule book is like history and lore and story, and it's like wow. Then they gave me the rule book. I'm like, really? Where's the setup? So yeah, writing stories is hard, but a lot of people like that in their games, and that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I actually think that. So I think making negotiation happen in a solo mode is challenging. But the other thing I really find challenging in games, and I think finding the balance is hard, is the balance between good story progression, if that's what you want, and game. And that's something that I consistently struggle to find in games, at least in a configuration that I really like. And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that games can advance a more traditional narrative successfully?
I think that it's more important it's not more important. I think it's probably the most important thing in a solo game is that the game tells a story. And I know I sent a design to Ignacy Chevchek in Portal Games many years ago, when he did Robinson Crusoe, and he produced a series of books called Board Games That Tell Stories, and he has a blog, Board Games That Tell Stories. And he took the game that I sent him, and he kind of sent me some wonderful feedback, which was mostly negative. And it was, your game doesn't have a progression. It doesn't tell a story. Ideas mechanically great, but it's no good because it needs to tell a story and it needs to progress. It needs a story arc, and that's incredibly important solo. Not every game needs it, not every game for sure, but it is incredibly important because a lot of what people enjoy about board games is what goes on above the table amongst a group of people and the fun that you have, and a lot of people bring their own stories, and you will tell your own stories as you're playing. The game has to give you that, like a book and like a movie. It's a different art form, really, and yeah, it's incredibly important. So that was probably the first hard knock lesson. It's getting. I started Boxing Delight's YouTube channel. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make a game, and I'm going to reach people, and I'm going to send my design, and he's going to think it's great. And I loved Robinson Crusoe, and just getting it back and saying, yeah, no, it's not good, was a really good lesson in an understanding. And it's not until people point out, and that's one of the actual ingredients as elements that make up a good game, that you start to appreciate how you need to put those elements together, for sure. Because sometimes you just play it and you know it's good, but you don't know why. And it's only talking to experienced people that you start to learn. And that's been one of the most wonderful experiences through the last 10 years, is how giving designers are about sharing their ideas with you and teaching you stuff. Yeah, it's been really good. So if you feel a hankering for doing some solo design or any design, have a go and talk to the community, because people are just, yeah, they're going to help you. Yeah.
That's
that
awesome.
Wasn't the question you asked. I always answer.
No, I don't mind. No, it's never wrong. It's just interesting. So it's actually got me thinking though, because I think I've been thinking about how, as we talk, it's almost like your life as a player now is inextricable from your life as a designer. Every game you play, it seems like you're looking at the mechanisms and thinking about how can I tweak it, what can I do, like can I take the engine apart, put it back together.
Yeah, and I wonder, does does a chef, when they go to a restaurant, enjoy the meal in the same way that I do, kind of ignorantly, and just, you taste good and I don't know why. But now, like, when I play a game, I think, oh, what it would be like to just play the game and not try and pick it apart. So, yeah, you got to stop yourself sometimes, from just trying to pick it apart and understanding the elements, and just enjoy the big old flavor of it. Yeah, yeah. It does change. It does alter your mind a little bit. But that's why I think I enjoy like games like Cascadia, where they're not that complicated. You can still appreciate the beauty in their simplicity, but there's less to dissect, so you can just relax a little bit more with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a designer at this point, but for me, I think that as a reviewer, I'm always kind of picking, how would I express how I feel about this game? How do I express what's good and what's not good?
Well, you're trying to assess everything, aren't you? And trying to understand, is this bit good or bad, or why have they done this, and why instead of just trying to enjoy it or not. Yeah, you're trying to pick it apart.
Yeah, although that's in my nature too. I mean, I thought I was going to be a professor one day. I'm post-academic. I love to pick things apart. So, I wonder, even if I weren't a reviewer, would I still do that?
And a lot of games are reviewer friendly as well, and a lot of games are not reviewer friendly, and that's hard for designers, because sometimes you can create a great game that's not reviewer friendly. Like Mage Knight's not really reviewer friendly, because you've got to invest so much time, and reviewers don't always have the time to invest in a game. So a lot of hits with reviewers tend to be something that they can learn quickly, and isn't so nuanced maybe, unless you're a super reviewer like yourself, and then you'll pick up on the nuance straight away, and because hence why you appreciate Mage Knight. But yeah, if you get a game like 1862, and I can't imagine how you could do anything with that without spending a lot of time with it. You couldn't just slot that in amongst your, I'm going to review 4 games today. No, you couldn't. So.
Yeah, but I actually think that I see it as a reviewer and as a video maker the same way that you see kind of looking for something surprising about Solo and trying to challenge yourself. I actually, probably much to the chagrin of people who send me review copies, right? They just sit there because I just kind of mess around with games for a long time before I review them. Like my gestation period is long.
Right.
And I also aspire, I've been trying to think about harder or more interesting games to teach as well, right, because I enjoy the challenge.
Right. Yeah, and that's why people want to watch this, because you've got to and listen to what you've got to say, because you're looking for something different to show people, which is what I think a lot of solo players want too. One of the benefits of being a solo player is that you can take your time with a game. There's no rush. There's no one sitting waiting for their turn. So you can play different kind of games in a different kind of way. So like with 1862, I've been able to just sit and, just spend hours and hours looking at one turn and just trying to understand and just enjoy the design. It doesn't matter whether I'm winning or losing, or, it doesn't matter if I'm going to lose, right? If I've set the game up, I knew I was going to lose, but it didn't matter. It was just about exploring it and just taking your time exploring it. But at the same time, I mean, that's what some games are designed for. I've always got a chess table set up behind me. I mean, this is the ultimate in 2-player competitiveness, and it's probably the ultimate game to me, because I'm very competitive, which is strange, but because I love playing 2-player competitive games, but I don't show that on the screen because it doesn't fit what my format of what I want to do. And just to be able to just sit down quietly and make a film is something you can do, but trying to do that with somebody else who doesn't fit around your schedule, it's not the same, right? So
that's true.
So that's why a lot of us like showing solo games. It's easier.
I actually do find it easier because I can get in as many places as I need to before that review without bothering anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I admire people who sit around and do multiplayer games on camera and make it entertaining, because it must be hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's certainly a different beast, doing solo and multiplayer. And I think that's one of the challenges for a designer doing solo modes, is trying to combine the two. You've got to create a game for two different types of people in one box. And in fact, with Cole Worley in his games, he'll say, it's like PAX Premier. It's a different game at every player count, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a different game because it just plays and feels differently. And if you go into it knowing what you're trying to do with the solo design, do you want it to make it feel like the multiplayer game? Do you want it a different experience? Is it the same as 1, 2, 3, 4? You set those targets early and cut yourself some slack and make it achievable. But ultimately, it's got to be fun. It's got to be fun to play. Yeah.
So speaking of fun, I know you've been enjoying 1862. Softball question: what other games have you been finding fun recently?
I've been because I've been working with Cole. I've been playing Root. So there was the Clockwork expansion. So I've been exploring that. I'm very slow when I get exploring games. So I've been learning the Woodland Alliance. So I've been playing them against and taking on different factions. So I've been enjoying that. I've just gotten hold of Undaunted Reinforcements, which is a solo mode. So that's David Terzi and David Digby. And that one's a very kind of true to form, I guess. It's very procedural, and there's lots of instructions. And it's more like a computer program that you've got to work through to try and figure out the AI and how it's going to behave. But I've opened the box and not quite dug into it yet. What else have I been playing? Cloudspire. I've been playing a little bit of Cloudspire. That's my little guilty pleasure when I'm not on the. And it's nice because I've done quite a few Cloudspire videos, and the same with Too Many Bones. I can play it and film. I don't have to film this because I can just play it and enjoy it. So I've been playing those. What else have I been playing? I've been playing a little bit of Dune Imperium. Another one that was quite good. I like deck builders. So I played Martin Wallace's Rocket Men. I've been playing that. That's quite simple, quite easy to play. What other games do I like? I like the All or Nothing Kill Forth games. So I play those because they're a nice little adventure. And like I said, I went back to Arkham Horror recently and played a little bit of that. And strangely, Talisman, just going around and around the table, just finding goblins in woods. I know, it's bizarre. So that's quite a nice way to unwind, just playing a little bit of Talisman. What about yourself, Liz? What have you been playing?
Oh man. So in terms of what's been making me happy recently, I've been playing a lot of Too Many Bones.
Right.
I'm revving up for a large set of Too Many Bones videos, which I think is overdue on my particular channel. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
And yeah, so I've been kind of itching to get Magi back out. I'm not gonna lie. I've been playing Agropolis just because it's small and it's in my bag, so I play that at work.
Okay.
Yeah, and I haven't played them yet, but I've been kind of like starting to pick up old war games, so I'm ready. I think this is going to be the year that I crack like B-17, Queen of the Skies, Ambush, Republic of Rome, the stuff that isn't hot anymore.
Right.
And
right.
I've just been kind of wanting to go back to the past.
It's good to explore some older stuff. I picked up a war game. Let me see. Here we go. This War Without an Enemy. So there's no solo mode in this, but it's a block war game, one of those block war games. So it won't play solo because you've kind of got hidden units. But sometimes it's nice, old-fashioned war games. You can just play both sides just to see how the mechanisms play out. So I do that sometimes. So I'm going to do that with this one. Try and rope someone into playing with me somewhere. But it's one of those two-player games where, like chess, where you can outwit each other.
If we were not an ocean apart, I'd be in for it. But where can you be found online for people who want to track down more of your stuff?
So boxofdelights.net is my website. I'm not great at keeping it up to date, but there's always links to my YouTube channel on there. So you can find all my YouTube stuff there. I do have a link to a Discord channel on there as well, so you can come and chat if you want to talk to me, come and ask me questions. Then you can do that. So folks like to come and ask me stuff on there. There's a little community of people who like to ask questions. So yeah, that's where you can go find stuff.
Excellent. So those of you out there, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know I can be found anywhere online as Beyond Solitaire. Ricky, thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome.
Oh, thanks for having me. Likewise, it's great to talk to you finally.
All right.
Yeah.
And all of you out there, thank you so much for listening. Leave a comment, like, subscribe if you're on the YouTube channel, and most of all, happy gaming.